to the Invest 90L. I also took a tour with Kevin Guthrie over some of the affected areas. Obviously, the water has receded a lot compared to where it was in the worst of it. You still have some of the RV and mobile home parks that have a lot of standing water. The state's got about 90 water pumps that are either being in use or are available for use. And there's also pumps at the municipal and county level. And so all told, I think there's about 100 pumps that are actually in use right now. Then the state has more capacity to do even more. Kevin and DEM have had to coordinate with FDOT as well as the Florida Department of Environmental Protection to make sure that water can be moved in areas that can take it, like that are managed by Florida Department of Transportation. FDOT has been actively involved in helping with the roadways. They will continue to do that. Florida Fish and Wildlife has been involved and has answered requests for support as needed. And we even have the Florida State Guard that has been involved to be able to assist. So this was, we had a very, very dry spell. You look like the Everglades, was really parched. There had not been much. And so the area held a lot of it, but it just was so much inundation in such a short period of time that you ended up having this. Now, there's going to be more rain today. The most recent briefing I found was it's more of a typical South Florida afternoon type shower, not like what we had earlier in the week. So hopefully that is what the case is. But Kevin and Jared and all of our state agencies will be standing by to help as needed. I told everybody, we definitely have to make sure on Saturday night that the streets are good so everyone can celebrate the Florida Panthers winning the Stanley Cup. And people, they said, well, we're going to have one more game. I was like, no, I don't think we need any more games in South Florida. I think we're good. I think if we could get 4-0, we'll take 4-0. But, these things are never over till it's over. But you'd rather be up 3-0 than down 3-0. I know that. And I did do a bet with the Premier of Alberta. So if you see Canadian whiskey circling around the state capitol next week, you'll know where it came from. I'm going to let Kevin and Jared provide a briefing, then I'll take some questions.
Thank you, Governor. As always, thank you for leading the charge. A testament to that is we were here about 15 months ago, and the city and county, I want to give kudos to both the city of Hollywood that we're in, as well as the surrounding communities and Broward County Emergency Management. What a night and day difference between a response 15 months ago and what we have now. So again, that goes to Jamie Hernandez, the EM Director for the City of Hollywood, and Clay Pacheco, the Emergency Management Director for Broward County. Again, for those that do not know me, I'm Kevin Guthrie. I'm the Executive Director of the Florida Division of Emergency Management. On Wednesday, June the 12th, Invest 90L made its way across southern peninsula Florida, bringing consistent rounds of heavy showers and thunderstorms. At the direction of the governor, the State Emergency Operations Center activated to a level 2 at 8 p.m. on June the 12th, and then moved to a level 1 activation on 8 a.m. the next morning to support the local response operations. The State Emergency Response Team, faster than ever, and immediately went into work staging pumps. As the governor has already mentioned, over 11,000 feet of flood protection systems were deployed to the area, 10 pallets of food, 14 pallets of water, and then, as the governor mentioned, 90 pumps. I've also been in constant communication with all the impacted counties and cities, and we're ensuring that any request they have is being fulfilled promptly, typically within 2 hours. I'd like to remind residents there is still some flooding in many areas, and you should make sure that you turn around so that you do not drown in this water experience. If your home has experienced significant flood damage, do not enter the building if it is still flooded. When you do that, the first thing you should do is take pictures of that flood inundation before you do any type of cleanup, so that you can pass that on to your flood insurance or your homeowner's insurance. Report any broken utilities to the proper authorities, and do not handle any type of live wires or other wires if they are laying on the ground. Throw out any food that's been contaminated, along with any floodwaters that are still remaining in your home. Avoid any areas that are subject to flooding. You only have to drive through about 6 inches of water to end up having a problem with your vehicle. Don't drive around barricades. Pay attention to all of the directions that local law enforcement and state law enforcement are giving you. Never try to walk through the water that is down here. Please, we see this all the time where individuals and their children are walking through this water that's out there on the ground. Some of that water may very well be contaminated. So please do not walk through it. Do not allow your children to play in it. Please continue to listen to your local authorities for preparedness tips and other information going into hurricane season. Of course, we always remind you to go and check out our website at floridadisaster.org/guide. Again, I cannot do what I do without the 30-plus state agency heads that make up the State Emergency Response Team. A guy that looks a whole lot like me is one of the best partners that I could ever ask for in a disaster, and that's Secretary Jared Perdue. Again, the governor's already mentioned Commissioner Roger Young with FWC. They were among some of the very first resources in with the Special Operations Group from Florida Fish and Wildlife. Dave Kerner, Executive Director of the Florida Highway Safety Motor Vehicles. His troopers answered the call very early on in those waning minutes just after we started experiencing problems. And then Sean Hamilton, of course. But Jared is a great partner, and his teams were out here within an hour putting pumps on the ground. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Jared Perdue.
Great. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Governor, for your leadership and your proactive approach to emergency response. This is something we have been dealing with for centuries in Florida. We learn from every event. We get better. As many of you remember, close to 15 months ago, there was an event down here. As soon as we saw the forecast for this rain event, we began planning, coordinating, staging personnel, staging resources, working very closely with our locals, and of course, my good friend Kevin Guthrie, in emergency management. He's tremendous leadership in times of emergency, and we could not ask for a better partnership with emergency management. We immediately deployed resources as soon as the rain event started. We've had teams from our Broward Operations Center working shoulder to shoulder with the city and county, working with these localized flooding issues that we've been having. Also, the Florida Highway Patrol under Dave Kerner's leadership has been right there with our crews throughout the night. We were even getting reports at 3 a.m. in the morning about issues they were dealing with. One of the biggest challenges we had was I-95 was closed at the 595 interchange. That closure lasted around 5 to 6 hours. We immediately deployed crews. We had 8 pumps running simultaneously. As soon as that flooding started, we were able to get that water pumped out and get it back open. Really proud of the efforts there. We've been coordinating very closely with our airports and seaports, and they have been weathering this, but there have been a lot of delays to commercial flights. That just comes with weather in Florida, but they're doing a great job. They had plans in place. They were monitoring all the issues, and we've been coordinating very closely with that. Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood International Airport, Mark Gell's a tremendous partner, and I've been having close contact with him as we manage this storm. Please remember, if you want information on road closures, detours, Florida511.com is the place to get that information. And again, could not say better things about our partner state agencies. We have a tremendous team. It's really due to the governor's leadership. He makes sure that we're prepared, and under his leadership, believe me, you have to deliver. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate all the state agencies that have been involved, and also just on a local level here. I know Hollywood and the county worked very well together, so appreciate all the effort that's been done here locally. And again, we are going to get some more rain today, maybe throughout the balance of the weekend. Hopefully it's not approaching the levels that it was, but we've got a lot of resources staged here, and we'll be able to offer the state's assistance as is requested by the local communities. With that, I'm happy to take a couple questions. Yep.
Thanks, Governor. So 14 months ago, we were told that storm in April was the only time that kind of storm had happened in a millennium. And then 14 months later, we're being told the same thing about this storm. So my question is we see a lot of the overdevelopment of our cities where concrete doesn't absorb water, and we see a lot of encroachment on our green spaces. So what can be done at the state level to make sure that we maintain
well, this clearly is not unprecedented. If you go back through Florida history, we've had events like this going back decades of recorded history without question. I think the difference is, if you compare 50 to 100 years ago to now, is, as you say, there's just a lot more that's been developed. So there's a lot more effects that this type of an event can have, given how Florida has grown. Ultimately, those are decisions where local communities are going to determine the pace of that and how they do it. What we've done in the state level under my governorship is we launched a program that just recognizes that as a tropical state, these are things that we deal with, called Resilient Florida. And what that says is, yes, it's the responsibility primarily of cities and counties to make sure that they have drainage or whatever they need to do, but this is something that impacts the entire state. So we now we've put billions of dollars in the kitty over the last 4 years, where you can actually have a local government that wants to make some improvements. They can get a grant from Resilient Florida and be able to make that happen. And a lot of people have taken advantage of that. When I signed the bill in Broward, I think it was a couple months ago, we signed the bill to take the gaming revenue to guarantee that it was going to use in certain wickets. One of the areas that's going to get recurring funding from the Seminole Gaming Compact is Resilient Florida. So folks will be able to do, in fact, I talked to the mayor here. They've got projects that they're looking to do, and these are things that the state wants to be helpful with, because I do think it does make a difference. So Kevin, well, first of all, Kevin can probably give you a brief about what's already been done, and it's not just the state. It's a lot of it has been, I think, who's got the good Red Cross. Yeah, Red Cross has folks. One of the things, we don't think there's going to be enough damage to necessarily qualify for a federal disaster declaration, but there may be enough damage with small businesses, because the threshold is different, where we can unlock some assistance for small businesses. And I think we're going to work on getting a decision on that, and I'll let Kevin fill you in on additional.
Yeah, so we've been working with our partners at Florida Commerce, and specifically Secretary Kelly at Florida Commerce has been leading the charge on that. So for all the individuals that are in the viewing area, you can go to their website and fill out their damage collection tool for businesses. If we have 5 homes that have seen significant damage it's 5 businesses with significant damage, 25 homes with major underinsured or no insurance losses, then we may be able to be eligible for a small business administration declaration. I'm going to be talking to Francisco, who is the Southeast Florida or Southeast United States regional rep here after this press conference, and seeing what it is to do to start getting, well, we know what it is to do. We'll go ahead and request that small business damage assessment with his staff and go ahead and get them in here. But we would have to be probably in the neighborhood of needing about 1,000 homes damaged with major or destroyed damage, and we just don't have that. Again, I think the testament here is to the cities and the county and the state for coming in and getting this done as fast as we did. There's not the damage that we saw back 15 months ago. So a very, very rapid response led to the reduction of destroyed and major damage to homes. Therefore, we're not going to qualify for the FEMA declaration, but we certainly should be qualified for an SBA disaster deck. The damage assessments are still being done at this point in time. Jamie, I'll give a quick couple of hundred homes that have affected damage here inside of, okay. So it's about 100-ish here inside the city of Hollywood. I'd imagine that number is going to be probably closer to 500, but again, those are affected. There's 4 levels: affected, minor, major, destroyed. Right now, we don't have really any reports of any destroyed homes at all, and a handful. I think the last report I saw was 4 majors countywide. So again, definitely a big difference than last time.
Yep. Well, I'm the governor of Florida. I'm not the commander-in-chief, but if my responsibilities were different, that would not be something that we would allow to be happening. I think it's really concerning. I think that under this administration, they've put out a posture of weakness that has invited more aggressive actions from our adversaries. Now, Russia, this isn't their first foray into the Western Hemisphere, obviously, if you look through history, but I think the amount of activity amongst hostile nations in our own hemisphere is probably at a level that we have not seen in many, many years. And if you look at how the governments of this hemisphere are constituted now, most of them are more aligned with the Russias and the Chinas, unfortunately, than with the United States and the free world. And so I think it is problematic. I think that history has shown that these bad actors, they respond to strength, and they're deterred by strength. They are not going to be deterred by weakness. They're not going to be deterred by confusion. They're not going to be deterred by a president wandering around aimlessly at the G7. They're going to be deterred because they know that that's not somebody that you want to mess with. So we're failing as a country with the deterrent capability, and I think it starts at the top with the President of the United States.
Governor, the media has said that because you don't save climate change, that you are responsible for flooding. And so, I mean, are you responsible for this conflict?
Well, here's the thing about it. I mean, I think some of this is really some of it's just very political in the sense of our energy bill that we did. It wasn't about saying or not saying climate change. It was a substantive piece of legislation to say that in the state of Florida, our energy policy is going to be driven by affordability for Floridians and reliability, especially, I mean, Invest 90L, I mean, compared to a Category 3, much less disruption than what you could have happened. We need to get the lights back on. We don't want our energy policy driven by climate ideology. When that happens, people pay more and the energy is less reliable. You don't believe me? Look at California. Look at some of the places that have tried this. So it's a substantive policy position about what's in the best interest of the state of Florida. Regardless of what you choose in that, it isn't going to prevent us from having tropical weather during tropical season. That's just baked in the cake. But we have definitely said affordability for Floridians is important. We want low energy costs, and that means you got to utilize things like natural gas. And we also want to make sure that when we have disruptions because of a hurricane, that we get the lights back on for people very quickly. I mean, we had the Category 5 in 2022 hit Southwest Florida, Hurricane Ian, and it was the fastest restoration of power for millions of people that we have ever had in the history of major hurricanes. And part of that is because we staged 45,000 linemen from out of state ready to go. We put a premium on it. But part of it is because we're really rooted in having reliable energy. Some of the states that have tried to force mandates for wind or some of these other things, you have blackouts. You have periods where it's not working. We cannot have that. I mean, can you imagine if you had an energy policy that was facilitating or incentivizing some of these blackouts, rolling blackouts like you've seen in California, like in August in South Florida, and you don't have access to AC and stuff, it would be devastating. So this is not about saying this or saying that. It's about what policies do you think are in the best interest of the state of Florida. And I have no doubt making sure energy is attainable and affordable for people is very important. We have to battle the federal government on that because they want people to pay more to support their agenda. And then making sure we have reliable energy. Because if you don't have reliable energy, you end up in big problems. So my issue with the climate ideology is it's discussed and they use these catchphrases, but the policies that actually reflect that have proven to be very damaging and very harmful for people, not just in places where it's been tried here, but in other parts of the world. So we want to make sure that we're standing up for people's ability to access energy affordably and then make sure that it's reliable. Okay, well, hopefully we will have a a Stanley Cup delivered to South Florida this weekend. And if they end up having to come back and play another game down here, I know that'll be a great environment, and I think that things look very well. So thank you.